What's up, guys? I'm Ian with Club Salty Aquatics, and in this episode we are going to acclimate and get all the fish that I picked up from the last episode of the fish shop tour into the tanks that they need to be going into. So hang out, see what happens, and we'll be right back. Okay guys, so I probably got way too much, but I had the right intentions with trying to keep it small. I just got a little carried away. So you're going to see what I got, you're going to see how I acclimate my fish, and let me kind of give you a rundown of how this is happening. Right off to my right, I believe your left, is a 22-gallon trash can that's being filled up with fresh RODI water that I'll be mixing with salt. It's about halfway there, so by the time I'm done acclimating the fish, it'll be ready to be mixed with salt and top off this tank. When putting the fish into the appropriate system, and I'm going to call them the appropriate system because I'm splitting up what I got into different tanks for quarantine reasons. But when I do it, I like to slow the pumps for an hour or two just to kind of let them get used to the new environment without a strong flow or anything. With the lights off and everything, this is pretty regular stuff. You'll see me doing all that. But how am I going to split up the fish? Well, some of them are going to go into here. Now, the reason I'm going to be putting some of them into here is because it has nothing else in it. And say I do have some kind of outbreak. If I have some kind of outbreak, I do have other tanks available that I can set up very quickly, get the fish out of the system, and put them into a different system for the appropriate kind of treatments. And I have medications on hand that I can treat these fish if they're needed. Now, with that said, my live fish store that I use, they quarantine most of their fish when they come in. Not all of them, but most of them. And they take incredible care of their fish. They're very, very hands-on. They do regular water changes, and most of these aquarium shops will because they're taking water out of their systems non-stop. So, with that said, I'm not too worried about having an outbreak, and the species of fish that are going in here, they're known for being really hardy. You'll recognize them as soon as you see them if you're familiar with any of these species or have your own tanks. If not, I'll go into detail at the end of this video about what I got and the reason I got them and kind of the overall plans. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get everything acclimating. This is a kind of an intensive step. I'm going to walk through kind of a couple of things that I'm doing during it to make sure that you understand. And I'm under kind of a time pressure because a couple of my bags are losing a little bit of water very, very slowly, just like a pinhole drip, and so I need to get these fish, and unfortunately those fish are the ones that I'm actually needing to wait for this water. The reason being is the fish that are in the bags that are leaking are going into a different tank because they are more sensitive to things, and I don't want to overstock this tank right off the bat with fish that can't handle a little bit of an increase in ammonia. You're going to see that regardless, but I wanted those fish in their own tank that I can monitor more closely. So the water I have filling up will be topping off this tank. The water that I am actually using that is coming from the acclimation period will go into that tank, along with as much other water as I can take out of this tank to bring it back to the appropriate level and get it into the other tank. So that'll put my other tank at about 25 gallons for the other fish that are going into quarantine. But with all this said, this tank is incredibly well cycled. It's been cycling for all of about 4 or 5 weeks now. Several of those would just let natural die off in the tank, and then 2 weeks or so, a little less than 2 weeks, with an actual additive bacteria. So the tank is ready. I can put all these fish in here immediately, but good practice means that I'm not going to. I am going to split them up and quarantine some of them. And all a quarantine tank is just another tank that I can monitor. So this, in a sense, is a quarantine tank for the fish that I'm putting in there. It's just going to turn into their display tank. So as long as nothing goes wrong with those fish, they're not going to have to taken out of here and treated. I'm not worried, once again, about any kind of infections, ick, or anything like that. These fish are very healthy, and the ones that I actually got have been in the shop for a little bit of time now, and if they had any kind of illness, you would have seen it by now. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get into this. Alright guys, so I've gotten most of the fish in here that are acclimating right now. I do have one more that I have to pull out of the bag, but I want to show you what I do for this part, and of course I use the drip acclimation method. I use a little handy tool which I will go over in a future video, kind of as like a review slash how to use it kind of thing. It's a really nice little thing. It's cheap, and I'll show you it in another video. But how you get these, how I take my fish out is they come in these nice little bags, right? I typically have 2 buckets. And it's important that you know what system your fish are coming out of. If they're all from the same system, you can acclimate them together. If not, you need to acclimate them separately. But if you don't know, it's always best to err on the side that they're all in separate systems and don't acclimate them together and acclimate them separately. However, I do know that these fish, or which system these fish are coming out of, so I'm going to go ahead and acclimate them together. So to do that, what I'm doing is I'm pouring out most of the water, just enough that they're staying in there, and then bring them in and drop them into the other bucket with the remaining water. And what that leaves you is just a few, like about an inch, inch and a half, just enough water for the fish to stay upright in, and then as the drip acclimation works, the bucket will fill up. And I'm looking to do about 2 times the water volume that they initially started in. So if they start in an inch of water, I'm looking for a minimum of 3 inches of water before they go into the tank. Most of the time, I'll do more like 4 or 5 times the amount of water. So in this case, I'm going to be doing about a total of 4 gallons of water for their half gallon that they started out with. So it's now been like it's over a week now. It's been a week and a day, 8 days since I went up to the fish store, got them all acclimated and all that stuff. And I haven't finished this video because, well, it's been a long week. So let's just get caught up real quick as far as why. First off, when acclimating all the fish, I had a lot of fish, a lot of creatures to actually acclimate, so it took me a lot longer than I anticipated to actually get those fish into the tanks, and by the time I'd done, the lights were off, and it's better to leave the lights off. I had them dimmed already, but I wanted them to adjust in the tank, with the intention of getting up the next day and finishing out this video, which now, of course, is a week late. But Monday came around and I had 3 exams that I had to take on Tuesday, so I spent the entire day booking for my exams and then had the intention of finishing this video on Tuesday. Tuesday was a long day, blah blah blah. Wednesday I ended up having to work. Thursday, I don't have an excuse for Thursday. I really should have done it Thursday. I just didn't. I slacked. It's, you know, no excuse. My fault. Friday, I worked again, but that was the start of headaches for me. So Friday, my manifold that runs the reactors decided to spring a leak. It was minimal, and I didn't know it was happening, but I found water starting to puddle from underneath my tank from it, so yeah, so it was leaking. I now have to fix that, and that light is in a bad position. Let's see, let's get a little back here. Let's see, look at the fish. Look at these guys. All right, anyways, so yeah, it was leaking. I had to, you know, cut that off, figure out where it was leaking, and we're actually going to be making a video here about it and what you should do in the situation of having something leaking. This applies to anything, not just tanks, but it's important to do because if you did what I did, which was wrong, then you're gonna make things worse, and that's why I want to make a video about it. So anyways, that was Friday. Saturday, again, I had to work. Not really an issue, but I had a whole nother issue again with water, and this one was bad, really bad. So I'm gonna cover both of what happened in detail in another video, probably the next video, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. It's definitely gonna be covered, so you'll see what happened, and I'll go into detail of what happened. I wish I would have actually been recording. I was on I've been just really busy this week. I hadn't had much time. Didn't even think about grabbing my camera and talking about it, which I need to get better about, get into a habit of doing. But anyways, I'm rambling. Let's get into what we're wanting to do. So today, we're finishing up talking about what fish I got when I was at the live fish store. So I'm going to flip us around and we're going to talk about what I got, reasons I got it, and address some concerns that I know are going to be coming in the comments, more than likely, about what I've done. So let's flip it around. Alrighty. So these are, you probably could have guessed if you watched my other videos, I love chromis. Let me turn this light off back behind me. Sorry if I'm making you guys dizzy, it's just fun, I'm playing with my gimbal. I love chromis. I think they're beautiful and they have a lot of personality and they're a very hardy, cheap fish to start out. So I ended up getting 9 of these guys. I wanted 10, but they're just a pain, and he had 9 and the 10th one just wasn't cooperating. So I stuck with 9. Not an issue. All 9 are very well off. They're doing great. They're eating frantically, which is awesome. We're going to do a feeding video in probably another week or so once I get the other fish in the other room put into this tank. We're going to go take a look at those here in just a second. Let's talk about some other stuff that's going on in this tank, though. I added a bunch of these Nacarius snails, or Nacarius snails. I've got 10 of those guys. I got 7 Trochus snails. I like the Trochus the best. They can flip themselves over most of the time. As you can see, I have one that's upside down there. He's been upside down for a couple hours, so I might go and give him a hand. But typically they can get up with no issue. But there's 7 of those in there. And then I have a black spined urchin, which if these fish would stop following my camera, watch this, they'll just come over to my camera. Man, come on, don't make me a liar. Sort of. They're really curious about what I'm doing. They kind of follow me all day. Anyways, I have this black spine urchin up here. They're nocturnal, so they do most of their stuff in the evening. But that is what went into this tank. Oh, I have 3 emerald crabs that are hiding somewhere in the rockwork. But one thing you'll notice about my rockwork is I have a lot of algae. And in this last week, most of this, I had some algae from the cycle, completely normal, not a concern. That's why we add the cleanup crew. But, oh, there's my, you might be able to see him. He is right there. That's one of my emerald crabs. Anyways, all of this algae has gotten a lot worse because I added the chromis. I've been monitoring the water and everything's fine. My ammonia level has not risen at all below a 0.2, so very, very minimal amount of ammonia. These guys are fine. I don't like seeing any ammonia, but I understood that with the amount of things I was putting in this tank, I was going to have a bit of a shock. Not an issue. Algae went nuts, and believe it or not, the cleanup crew is absolutely just pulverizing it. Every day I come out here and looked at this tank from what it was like 2 days after I put everything in and all that algae just bloomed from the extra nutrients. It has decreased greatly, and this is one of the things that I want to talk about on this channel is how to appropriately pick your cleanup crew. Because too often we're throwing too much in and it causes more issue. We're going to go into an in-depth video on that here very soon. But anyways, that's what I got into this tank. Now the real thing that I got that I'm proud of and can't wait to get in the tank is in here. These guys are in quarantine, but I have these 3 little quarter-size yellow tangs. And they were all kind of beaten up, not too bad. But they've been in quarantine now for 8 days, and they are doing great. They're eating for just incredible. This tank had a ton of algae in it, and they have pretty much cleaned all of that hair algae off the glass and everything already. And this is the best this tank has ever looked, honestly. But yeah, so I got these 3 little guys. They're very accustomed to me coming up, but they're probably getting a little skittish because I'm sitting here with the camera and talking. So they're all very healthy. They had a little bit of fin fin damage and stuff, but they've the one that was the worst has pretty much completely recovered. They recovered very quickly. I have all the necessary medications if any kind of outbreak popped up on these guys, but they're doing really good. They have a ton of personality. They pretty much stick together all day, every day. So these guys will be going into the tank in the next week. Now that I've verified that they're eating properly and they have no sickness whatsoever, the only thing that's holding me off from putting them into the other tank is the fact that there's a high amount of nitrates in my tank, and that is what this giant bin is. This is 32 gallons of freshly mixed salt water that has to go into the tank today. So I will be doing that today and checking it in 2 more days, and I'll have another 32 gallons ready to go. And at the end of the second 32 go around, the nutrient levels should drop enough, considering that's going to be about 45 to 50% of the volume of water in this tank. That should be enough to really cut down on the amount of nutrients and stuff and let the bio load actually catch up to what is going on in the tank. So that is the importance of water changes in this kind of situation. So that's going to be happening, like I said, one today, probably another one on Tuesday afternoon. And then Thursday I am going to be checking all of my water, testing my water again from this, and I will know at that point whether or not it is ready for those yellow tanks. Because again, they are heavy producing, they're heavy nutrient producing fish. They have a lot of bioload stress, and all tanks do. So they are small, so that helps, but as the tank gets more mature and stuff, I'm probably going to need to up some of my bio capacity and add something else. So I've got some plans, I got some ideas. We're just going to approach it when it comes. But as far as what's going on here, those are the fish I got. I'm sorry it took so long to get into it, and this video is probably stretching towards 20 minutes now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm not in the picture. I'm not in the picture. Okay, I should be in the picture now. Anyway, so that is what I got from the fish shop. Sorry it took me so long to get it to you, but like I said, I had a lot going on this week, and I honestly just kind of wasn't feeling taking the time to make it. That's my fault. I'm back in my jive now, though. So until next time, guys, I'm Ian. This is Club Salty Aquatics, and take it easy.